Upon the beach of the island that holds Astral World, two figures of myth have met in battle. One, a champion of the moon, a man who commands both light and shadow. The other, a wolf among the stars, a shapeshifter and tireless hunter. Jeff Lynne has successfully gotten the survivors to Astral World, where they will meet their destiny in the digital afterlife. If he is not careful, however, he may soon join them as a ghost himself. Jeff comes to a sliding halt in the sand. He takes up a powerful stance, fists raised, feet firmly planted. Behind him, the ephemeral form of his stand, Mr. Blue Sky, manifests and takes on a similar pose. He speaks to his enemy. "So, you've finally revealed yourself. Another competitor for the throne." His opponent slithers upright, and his legs part and become more humanoid than serpentine. He adjusts his tie and brushes sand off from his shoulders. "We're both kings. It's only natural that we decide this in the old-fashioned way, isn't it? Only one of us can survive, as I'm sure you're aware." Jeff scoffs. "You? A king? Don't make me laugh." Jason sneers. "I may not have been born with my title, but I've certainly earned it. With Die For You, there can be no doubt of my royalty among predators. I alone am at the top of the food chain. It is a place so high, not even a pretty little bird like yourself can climb beyond its reach. Allow me to demonstrate that cold, hard fact." The fight begins with a burst of speed as Jason attempts to launch an eye bite. With Die For You's power, he wields a swift vortex of crushing force that appears as a massive, fanged set of jaws that can punch through the very fabric of space. Whatever may fall into his field of vision, wherever the distance, he may bite it and consume it, fueling his strange physiology and transformative abilities. Jeff, however, is no mere prey. As the king of the moon and the skies above, he quickly takes flight and launches forth with a series of hard light spears. These constructs, the manifestation of his vision and the dreams of his pioneering parents, place a burden upon physical forces merely by existing. The universe simply cannot process them quickly enough, and as a result, time begins to warp and dilate around their surface. Enough so that, as Jason launches his attacks, each one falls short of meeting the mark, as Jeff always seems to be one step ahead. Jeff pauses in his barrage. "Whatever delusions you may be holding about your stand, it can't compare to Mr. Blue Sky. With flight, these spears, and the grasp of its shadow, Mr. Knight, there can be no victory. The moon will be cheering when there is news of your death, and I'll get to soak it in personally as their beloved hero. If anything, I should be thanking you for the opportunity, having given me one more monster to slay for the people." Jason's features begin to warp and become monstrous. "Delusions. Such as that you're a hero, that you've done anything worthy of praise. You're a tool created by an insane old man, a genocidal fascist who truly believed that a master race born from the moon would rise up and rule over humanity. No matter how much you try to deny it, you're one of his greatest creations, a perfect, blonde-haired, blue-eyed monster, as insecure as a nervous child. If they're cheering, it's to drown you out. That annoying sound of your voice, just because you won't. Shut up!" The violence explodes again as Jason extends his torso and weaves his body in a zigzagging pattern towards Jeff. Die For You, a stand covered in spikes, black leather, and fur, tears furiously at the ground as the two travel together. Jason's stand is the perfect avatar of his more primal nature, a ravenous and dreadful beast, sharp in claw and fang. Jeff carefully measures the speed and distance of his opponent and launches another spear of light. In his euphoric frenzy, Jason thinks himself swift enough to use Die For You's eye bite to crush those projectiles. But as the phantom jaws close around it, he instead begins to feel the distortion of time. The pained howl of his stand is immediately piercing. So too is the puncture wound which appears on his chest. Die For You struggles to keep the spear from going through its very heart. But as it attempts to grasp the solar missile, its hands begin to singe and smoke. So too does the user's own palms. Jason pivots and slides through the sand, letting his hands glide along the ground to dull the intense heat. Though he possesses a superhuman physiology, he cannot deny the mental toll of being in such close proximity to this reality-warping arsenal. Finally, another light spear flies towards him. He tries again to destroy it in flight, but as the fangs get closer, they slow once more. "'Cause I am the king of predators." He thinks and presses on, urging them to clamp shut. "Because I can't miss on a kill." The spear gets ever closer, and still he pulls his vortex along to keep pace. At last, he screams aloud, "Because I am!" It is not enough. The spear punches a hole right through the spot where Die For You had previously been wounded, and proceeds to impale him directly through the chest. He is fortunate. The force he mustered at the very last moment managed to push it slightly away from his heart, a wound from which he might not have even been able to walk away from. Blood spills from his mouth and from his eyes. As he falls to one knee, Jeff smugly approaches, hovering in the air as he does, another spear in hand. Gambling with your life after all the time you've spent skulking around in the background. You must have been desperate to take your shot. Mr. Blue Sky's fire on high is more than enough to end your career as the big bad wolf. Jason struggles to speak, mouth full of blood. You and I both know all that trash talk is you fluffing yourself up to look big. I've seen your genetic profile. You're a literal bottle blonde. Even your ego's been encoded into you. Jeff shrugs, and Mr. Blue Sky folds his arms as he floats behind. It's irrelevant. All that matters are the choices I make. You could go the extra step. Say those are a part of the genetic code too. But if that were true, then you would know what my next move is going to be. Since you're so confident that I'm just a pre-programmed opponent, it should be easy for you. Jason snickers. It's the most honest thing you've said since we've started. The gamble is clear. Jeff is within close enough proximity to finish the fight. Jason, too, could easily launch a physical attack with Die For You. This is when two opponents should plan to end their combat. And yet, Jeff seems strangely surprised when Jason uses his eye bite to inflict a wound upon his shoulder. He had been expecting something like the neck or the head. Instead, the quick laceration is enough to stoke his rage and bring out the cold, dark aura of Mr. Knight. Jason barely has time to glance backwards as the shadowy figure appears and drags him down into the shadow. In the realm of Mr. Knight, the world seems strange and darkened. It is cold and seemingly tireless. A place where time simply does not exist. A dead snapshot of the world. Small arcs of power mark scorched indentations in the environment, the result of the light spears that were thrown in the real world. It is in the umbral zone where he sees a lone figure, a silhouette of Mr. Blue Sky, a part of Jeff Lynn's stand which he keeps hidden away. Jason rises up and wipes the blood away from his face with his sleeve. Hello, tall, dark, and handsome. I've heard rumors that Jeff has this power, vanishing undesirables away, never to be seen again. I'm starting to get it. He thinks he's got me trapped, but the truth of the matter is... On the outside world, Jeff watches the area Jason once occupied. When he reflexively feels the pull of something away from his shoulder. A spiraling fang has emerged to shear through reality, launched from the wound itself, and carving through space. The shreds from which emerge two hands which pull open a savagely hemmed portal. Die For You parts the wound in reality and roars defiant. Now anchored to the damage it has inflicted upon its victim, it begins to slash its claws furiously at Jeff. Jason stares down his shadowy opponent, continues. The power of Die For You lies in the scars it can leave. Every slash, every cut, every bite, it only makes me stronger and imparts a unique signature that can summon me forth. I exist in every trauma I create. I am empowered by every weakness I inflict. You're not the hunter. You're the prey. The air chills as Mr. Knight is urged to action. The shadowy figure charges at Jason. On the other side, in the real world, Jeff struggles to avoid the barrage of swipes and strikes from Die For You. But without the benefit of his spears of light, he is now on uneven footing and rapidly becoming outpaced. In the darkened world, Jason has once again begun to warp his body to snake his way around Mr. Knight's grasp. Every time the shadow of Mr. Blue Sky gets within striking distance, the temperature drops rapidly. Blood dries, flakes, and flies off of Jason, a detail which he does not miss. Now I'm getting it. You need a keen eye to be an accurate reporter. You aren't some kind of expert fighter, are you? You're an energy vampire, a predator like I am, except you drain chemical reactions at the molecular level to fuel your abilities. You can even do it with light now. That's how you make those spears. You're no golden hawk, Jeff Lynne. You're just a glorified solar panel, and this is your battery. Jason laughs with some tinge of madness as he abruptly pulls his own arm free from its socket, sending a spray of blood out towards Mr. Knight. The crimson arc splashes the darkened figure in the face, enough so that he is momentarily blinded. So too is Jeff on the outside. Jason proceeds to swing the arm as if it were a club, cracking Mr. Knight in the face and head. With each blow, the flesh of the arm deadens and hardens, only increasing its effectiveness as a club and a bludgeon. Jason flies into a frenzy, teeth clenched, fanged eyes wide as he violently pummels the now defensive Mr. Knight. He screams, roars practically. It's not enough to just have the moon, is it? It was never good enough for you. You won't be satisfied until you're king of everything. Spoiled, rotten, never told no. You're not secretly harboring any pain or sorrow at all. All you feel is greed and pride and wrath. When someone stands up to you, he stands over the severely battered form of Mr. Knight. In ancient times, we'd have just cut your head off. With that, he strikes the cold, deadened arm, his own arm, torn from his body, against the floor, sharpening part of it like an axe to bring down upon the neck of the battered Mr. Knight. Long live the king! And he swings downward. The limb-turned cleaver sinks into the back of Mr. Knight's neck, and for a moment, Jason is sure that he will sever the head as promised. His savage attack, at the cost of his own arm, has landed at just the right angle, and with just the right amount of force to completely decapitate this aspect of Jeff's stand. As it goes in, however, the blade is suddenly halted before it can make serious progress. In the real world, missing one of its limbs, Die For You has lost the advantage against Jeff, and proceeds to take up a boxing stance. With a left hook, then a right jab, Jeff proceeds to unleash a combination of basic fighting techniques onto quite literally a disarmed opponent. Each blow lands with precision and purpose. First strike to the shoulder, which causes Jason to reel. Next, palm below the chin, causing both stand and user to become rocked. After that, Jeff sizes up his opponent. I may not have big time these days, but I think the lesson sticks. With that, he proceeds to unleash a flurry of repeated strikes to Die For You. The stand drifts backwards while attempting to guard itself with its remaining arm, but the fury is undeniable. Even without his stand by his side in that moment, Jeff Lynne is no stranger to physical combat. Year after year of peak physical training and performance, combined with his exquisitely engineered genetics, have made him a top-level athlete. It is rare that anyone would have the chance to realize this, taking him for a pampered billionaire with little time to hit the gym. In reality, his fighting abilities put him among some of the greatest of the generation. Strike after strike, even though he bears the wounds of Die For You's claws, he proves himself to truly be worthy of a stand like Mr. Blue Sky. The final blow comes in the form of a rising knee, right into the chin of Die For You, followed by a spinning roundhouse kick before both parties can even touch the ground. The accuracy required to land the heel of his foot against the left temple of the stand he's fighting is incredible, but in the shadow of Astroworld, Jeff Lynne has accomplished it. He shouts, "Now, Mr. Knight!" Jason comes stumbling from the shadows of a nearby boulder, dizzied and battered. Even as his body tries to reshape and concentrate its strength into maintaining proper fighting stance, the user is quite literally on the rocks. His glasses are broken, and his breathing is ragged. Jeff cracks his knuckles. In the event of a failed rebellion, there's only one proper form of punishment for those who would stand against the king: execution. Jeff rises into the air with Mr. Blue Sky behind him, the stand's arms outstretched as if welcoming heaven itself to witness. He continues, "Doesn't matter how many tricks you think you have up your sleeve or how much you want to win. I couldn't care how much you've struggled or what you've sacrificed. I don't care for the things that you care for. I don't need to. To recognize you as an equal would be to lower myself. I am Jeff Lynn. I have the power of light itself. I am undefeated, and more importantly, unequaled. Mr. Blue Sky produces a spear of light, then hands it to Jeff. With the energy I've been able to siphon from those little vortexes you make, I've got more than enough ammunition to end this. When you get to the other side, hide from the skies, because I'll be above, looking for your punctured ghost. More and more you will come to be afraid of the light, shining from upon high, until the sun itself for you will be like darkness for a child. You will never know peace. I'll burn even your ghost to ashes. Jason, battered and bloodied, and simply groaned. Well, get it over with. Jeff nods firmly, then proceeds to unleash a barrage of spears of light. As the first one tears through Jason's torso, he barely has time to react to the pain of it. Time has warped and become jagged, causing parts of his body to move more quickly than the others, like digitally displaced frames of animation. Arms reel before the head, which looks all too late at the second spear, which causes him to then open his mouth to scream as the third spear goes right through his stomach. The words, the screaming, it all happens on a delay. Jason Valley experiences terminal lag as the spears continue to fly, one after another. Even with his superhuman body, he cannot absorb so much damage. Each time, his cells try to bend, mold around, adapt, reinforce, regenerate, but there is nothing that they can do. The force and reality-bending properties of these spears is far beyond his capacity, yet still he struggles. Finally, he becomes frozen in time, one arm outstretched, body impaled by 12 spears of light, each one a blazing javelin. In this new state, his image distorts, blurs, and occasionally inverts or mirrors in its position like a glitch on a screen. Jeff admires his handiwork. Not even I know what happens to anyone who dies from these, but maybe in 1,000 years you'll be able to tell me. The waves slap gently at the shore to the beach. Jeff's blood drips and falls to the sand before he can fully descend, but he is given pause once his feet touch the earth. The droplets are beginning to freeze in their descent. They, too, distort. The position sometimes lowers, sometimes rises. It depends on how he looks at them. A distant wind pushes them closer, then further, then closer, all in the blink of an eye. He feels something has gone wrong. Did I go too far this time, I wonder? With abilities like these, there's just no telling. And that's when he hears something strange. Nova Kick! The voice echoes, and Jeff barely has time to look to his left as reality shatters beneath the pressure of an incoming attack. Jodeci Sojourn, the constant nemesis, has found a thin layer of reality, enough so that even he, in his strange, uncertain state, can break through with little more than a flying kick. It is enough for him to burst forth from the void, to lay down a solid, crushing blow that strikes Jeff square in the face. The CEO goes flying backwards, tumbling, and then rolls in the sand. Jodeci, whose clothes flash from white to black and then split between the two down the middle, runs a hand through his salt and pepper hair and raises his foot so that he can brush his shoe off. Looks like you've been missing me, huh? I'm touched, man. Here, I thought you hated me, and then you went ahead and put reality on the brink with your silly little glow sticks. You might as well have been waving them at my concert. Jodeci, Jodeci, I love you. Just kidding. I'll sign your tits, though. Got a marker? Jeff strikes the sand with a fist and then gets to one knee. Once the blood and pain clear from his eyes, he narrows them. Mr. Blue Sky has already begun to summon another spear of light. So you're the one. A guy that got killed so hard he's not even supposed to exist, even as a ghost. Your friends keep talking about you. Nia in particular. Don't worry, though. I've been taking care of her while you're away. Jodeci recoils slightly. What? Don't say it like that. You're old and gross. That good old boy corporate routine was boring the last 100 times that I heard it. Of course, it's usually some kind of fallback you like to throw out there when I'm about to kill the ever-loving shit out of you. You know how many times that's happened? No? Yeah, no, you wouldn't. I do. At this point, it's practically my favorite number. Well, that and 69. 69. Jeff scowls. Enough! Your clowny bullshit may have been enough to see you through some tough battles, but I doubt you've ever had to face the power of Mr. Blue Sky's fire on high. No matter how many times you've been through this, things are gonna be different. Jodeci kind of shakes his head. Nuh-uh. Jeff pauses. Uh-huh. Jodeci tilts his head slightly. Nuh-uh. Jeff begins to clench his fist. Uh-huh. Damn it, just die already! In the bedlam that ensues, a chain of explosions rock the beach of Astral World. Between the flashes of light, Jeff can track the silhouette of his opponent, illuminated by energy through the clouds of smoke that rise each time one of his spears strikes the ground and explodes. He notices, in that moment, that odd sparks of red and blue occur where his spear should have landed. A moment where he was certain, beyond any doubt, that he had his enemy dead to rights. Each time, those odd sprays of color, and each time, he narrowly misses. The experience is an exercise in frustration. Jeff screams, "Stand still and get hit, you clown!" Jodeci coughs and waves the smoke away from his face. "Why, Jeff? I thought we were friends, man." Jeff absolutely seethes. "I don't have friends, I have employees." Jodeci kind of shrinks in his posture a little and has a sad look on his face. Aww. Oh shit! He manages to avoid catching a spear through the chest by a mere half-inch. He spins around on his heels and exhales while wiping the sweat away from his brow, the back of his hand. That was close, man. That one almost hit me. And before he can even finish that thought, 5 more spears are flying towards him through the smoke, which causes him to summon his stand out finally, fully. He shouts, "Wave to anchor!" It is in that moment that we are able to see what his stand can do. Jodeci snaps his fingers, creating a flurry of red sparks. His afterimage is frozen in the sand in the exact same pose that he held. It is an image that only he can perceive. And throughout the beach, there are similar images which flicker in the negative of his eye. There exist countless possibilities, endless points at which he could have made a different decision. To move this way, or that way, to attack or defend, to taunt, or simply let the opponent wallow in their impotent rage. He has to consider each one for each second, and every outcome therein. When the flash of blue sparks is released, with a snap of his finger, he distorts time and appears in that image's place, at which point in time he was frozen, and then resumes. His field is always filled with his triumphs and his defeats. At many points he can see himself on the brink of death. Though Jeff would never realize it, he's already won this battle 100 times or more. He just never gets to enjoy it. With every removal of an anchor in time, that timeline is collapsed, and each time a reality closes, Jodeci gains an advantage over his opponent. The collapse of temporal energy is like a cascade that flows through the fists of his stand, waved to anchor. The fight ends quickly for Jeff Lynne. He only knows that he threw another barrage of spears and then felt a sharp blow to the back of his head. Once he is on the ground, he looks up to the sky and sees Jodeci kneeling by his head. Trickster pokes Jeff in the eyes with 2 fingers. Jeff shouts in frustration and pain and quickly covers his face. "Sorry, Charlie. You never stood a chance. Doesn't matter what the rules of the game are. Nobody can beat a cheater. And brother, do I ever cheat." The beach begins to darken. All light recedes away from the sand and surf and begins to pull in to a center point of that darkness. Jodeci slowly turns his head, and even Jeff has a moment to move his hands so that he can witness what takes place next. From that one deep well of darkness steps a woman, dressed in gold with hair of deep dark blue streaked with that same brilliant gold. Like a star emergent from the void, the maiden of the Cancer moon arrives. "Enough, insolent fools, meddlesome children. All of you who wield such power do so flagrantly, ruining my perfect garden by stomping all over it with your muddy boots. So now it's only fair that you receive the same in kind." Jeff tries to speak, but Jodeci slaps him on the forehead, forcing him to lie back down in further agony. "Don't worry, bud. I got this one." Jodeci stands, adjusts his jacket, and then tries to take on a calm, more collected posture, if only for a moment. Well, look who it is. Look who finally showed up to their own little puppet show. The one and only, well, not really. Huh? I know you thought you got rid of me, but it turns out you just made me even more of a threat. Even as my existence continues to burn away, just the fact that I existed at all is ruining this garden of yours. My presence was too great, obviously. People love me so much you're getting hate mail from God that says, "Put Jodeci back on the show." Gotta admit, love the fans. The maiden's face twists with rage. "Silence. You were a mistake. She may never admit it or even realize it, but I do.
caring for someone, being so attached. Those are worthless pursuits. The only thing that matters is a perfect world. That means a world without you.
Jodeci looks, well, mockingly hurt. Baby, I thought we were going to get married, have kids, maybe grow old together, just sit on the porch, watch the sunset. He doesn't even have time to finish the taunt. The blast of pure ripple energy is enough to vaporize water and sand where he once stood. Jeff is thrown violently away by the impact, having only time to shield himself with Mr. Blue Sky before he is flung into the air. Just as he hits the height of his arc, the entire world freezes and becomes bathed in a golden hue. The maiden stands tall, and behind her, the stand Golden Echo has hands outstretched, manifesting its golden frame in space and time. It has completely locked away this slice of reality from the rest, and within it, she is supreme. The flow of time has ceased, and all events caused within can be altered, induced, or denied, all on her whim. You're a fool to come crawling back to the world. Don't you know how pathetic it is to bother your ex when she's moved on? Jodeci looks back at Jeff and then over to the still impaled, frozen form of Jason. I don't know. Seems like things are pretty much the same as when I left. Is your spooky sister still banging Jim? The maiden sneers.
She is not my sister.
She composes herself.
We are all part of the same soul, a soul which was touched by fate itself. You became entwined with one of my fellow avatars, and that was your biggest mistake. If I have to cut you out of every single frame of this timeline, I will. Your world may revolve around relationship drama, karate, and fast food, but we have more important business to deal with. Your mere presence invites further decoherence. I have no choice but to kill you again and again and again and again.
Jodeci snickers. Always loved a girl with stamina. You know, since me and Kimber aren't a thing, Maiden finally loses it. Ah! The attack has already begun. Even in this frozen golden frame, Jodeci has made several different impressions. His images flicker in the negative, and he notes that each one of them is in a state of pain or distress. This is a familiar feeling. The Maiden's power is no mere bluff. Physically, she outperforms anyone he's ever had to face off against, even Avicii. Mentally, she is capable of outthinking most of his tricks, and even predicting when and where he'll make one of his anchors. Even one step into the wrong direction can result in immediate defeat. The maiden smirks. You're realizing it now. Without even having to make a move, you've already died countless times. Every angle, every possibility. They all end with your painful, painful destruction. And the longer it takes, the more excruciating it will be. You see it, and I see it too in the reflection of your eyes, Jodeci Sojourn. The cat with 1,000,000 lives is about to lose 1,000,001. Jodeci has begun to visibly sweat. This time, when he wipes it away from his brow, it isn't just to mock his opponent. The stress is real. Because what she's saying is absolutely true. There are scenarios where he can almost move in to make a strike, but then is quickly cleaved in half with just a strong chop of her hand. Situations where he may land a kick, but then be flung into the void of space. Some outcomes where he is simply blasted and reduced to ash by an overload of ripple energy. All of it happening and all of it never coming to pass until he makes his move. Finally, he speaks. Yeah, I admit, this isn't as easy as it was, before. Wave to anchor might be the best stand there is, but it's not enough to stop the inevitable. Of course, there is an ace up my sleeve. Going back to the first save point. Something I've never done. Pulling that off. Countless other timelines will be dragged back and destroyed as I drag them with me. And in that madness, something new's gonna happen. Something you or I never accounted for. Everything I've seen, everything I've done, all of my bonds, all of my failures and fears, all of it will be stretched out across this cycle. It's like I'll never stop existing. Wow. Maybe this is when it happens. I'm not ready. Wait, can I have a second to write up a speech? Screaming and gathering light in her hand, the maiden quickly prepares to strike Jodeci down where he stands, no longer content to let him hang himself with one of his foolish actions. Just as she closes in, he performs one final snap of his fingers and produces a mixture of red and blue sparks as he does. All at once, everything is reversed. The maiden retreats into her void. Jeff gets to his feet. Jason is freed from his prison of spears. The moon turns backwards, and Jodeci Sojourn is pulled along the way. His image begins where it last stood and stretches as he walks.
Like a spectral serpent, he walks backwards, leaving a trail of his images as he does. Everything, then, he weaves through in this way. Through the fights, through the meeting of his friends, through the small celebrations of victory and the agonizing tears at the deaths of the people he cared for. He makes a sort of quantum tunnel through his entire timeline. It was a trick he'd learned from Germanata, that people remain connected through history by where they've been. His life and everything that he has gone through, everything that he has experienced, paints time until he finds himself standing in the void once more. Germanata, with her arms folded, simply stares at him. So? Jodeci shrugs. I think I did something? Germanata just sighs. God, you're such an idiot. Jodeci looks a little offended. Hey, I'm your only friend in this joint, so be cool. Besides, if you keep talking like that, you'll never get a piece of this sweet. Germanata interrupts him with a groan and proceeds to walk away into the darkness. I miss the silence already. Jodeci chases after her. Hey, come back! I'll get lonely out here! He chases her off into the void until the two are small dots on an endless field of black. Back on the beach, the maiden is left, throwing a blast at nothing. She looks left and then right, and eases her posture. Good. I deleted him, finally. Golden Echo, fix this. Reset it, get it back to normal, scatter these idiots before they cause another catastrophe. Still uncertain, she watches as Golden Echo goes to gather Jeff and then Jason. The stand applies the golden light to their wounds, reversing and sealing them shut, reverting both to their original states. Two doors manifest from thin air. Jason is thrown through one and Jeff is flung through the other. Golden Echo even takes the time to tidy up the beach and smooth away the damage caused by Jeff's fire on high. The maiden watches carefully. As long as that didn't disturb Sleeping Beauty, we're all good here. A voice rises from behind a boulder, the same boulder that Jason had been pummeled against. Yeah, what about me? A man in a red suit with a face covered in bandages seems to have appeared from behind that rock. Maiden looks at him and audibly groans. Get the hell out of here, Abel! Abel adjusts his tie and collar. Well, fuck you too, lady. Just looking for the bathroom, rude-ass bitch. He stomps off and smooths his hair out. Maiden shakes her head and quickly exits through a third door opened by Golden Echo itself. Together, the two figures depart. Somewhere in the distance, a purple car emerges from the water and drives over rock and sand. Behind the wheel, a smiling robot waves his arms in excitement as the two are about to embark on their own adventure in a new world full of wonder, danger, and most importantly, baseball.